In this video, we'll understand about the main power of Express.js, that is adding middlewares, or what is a middleware, right? So far we have developed a users router which contains different routes to create, delete, and update and read the users. Now, what is middleware and how do you supply it, right? So middleware is nothing but a function which is called automatically by the Express server, which you register while initiating the server. So while initiating the server, you supply few middlewares like this. So these are middlewares. While initiating the server, you supply the middlewares to the server, and those functions are automatically called by the Express engine when the request reaches to it. So when request is reaching at this point, when the request, so whenever the application starts and the middleware is supplied. So when the request starts, before going anywhere, the request goes here, here, and here, and then reaches it down here. So that's the beauty of the middleware. So you once define it, and on every request that middleware function is going to be executed, right? So there are different types of middleware. Application level middleware, comma, router level middleware, comma, route level middleware. So application middleware, it means these middlewares are going to be called for all the requests in the application. And router level middleware, these middlewares will be called only on a particular route which we are defining, like either users or products or cart, right? And then we have route level middleware, which will be called only on this single route, or whatever, wherever we attach the route, wherever we attach the middlewares, right? Now, let me show you what is a middleware, right? What can be the middleware? So I'm adding a middleware over here, app.use. So how do you add a middleware? Function request response, and the third argument which you get when you are using the middlewares is next, right? So when you want to supply a middleware, this is how you supply, right? So now what I'll do is I'll do console.log. I'll print request.url in my middleware. I log in my middleware, and I log request.url. That's it, request.url. Now I'll try to access this simple URL, right? Let me start it, right? So HTTP localhost 3000. Now when I hit this request, why is it coming? Yes. So see, in my middleware, so the middleware function got executed, right? Because it was added to the application before the index router was supplied. So the middleware called, but you don't see the response because the control, or it didn't reach, the request didn't reach over here. So see, hello, request received, right? And when I run it back, and when I hit the URL, so see, the request is in the middleware itself. It didn't reach the next point. That is because in the middleware, I have to call the next function. So what is next means it calls the next middleware which is in the queue. So if there is no middleware in the queue, or if it is any next middleware, here in our case, the next middleware is the index router. So that's how you call. Now when you call the URL, you are getting to see the output hello world and also the console.log request received. So without, if you are defining any middleware and you are not calling the next function, then that request is going to be on hold at this point until the next function is called. And also middlewares agree upon the order of definition. So here if you define the middleware after the index router, see after the index router, and I am trying to access an index router, now the middleware is not executed. So middlewares are defined, or middlewares follow the order of definition. So if you define two middlewares, second middleware, in first middleware, so the request travels from top to bottom. So now in first middleware and second middleware, so middlewares preserve the order of definition and are executed in the same order. Right? Now if you want, you can even abort a request in a middleware itself, right? So you have the access to request and response body. Let's say if user is trying to send, if request.params.id is equal to Vasudev, then I can say res.send malicious request identified, right? So see, malicious request identified. Now if I try to send params.id or params.id is equal to Vasudev, so see, it didn't reach anywhere, or else I can look for the query param, right? Query is easy for me. So query name id is equal to Vasudev, then malicious request identified, right? So these are the application level routers. So here I can even abort my request before even going to any other routers, right? Now I have defined this middleware as a complete application level middleware, right? Now the same middleware I can define at a router level also, right? So over here in index.js, I can supply router.use the same function. Now this middleware will be applied only to the routes inside the index.js and not in the users.js. So if you see here, I am requesting for some data, right? I am requesting from data hello world in the first middleware. Now if I try to access any data of the user's router, then that middleware is not executed. One second. Yes. Router.use. This request is being caught over here as well, right? This middleware is being called over here also, because it contains that backslash. So all the requests will be attached to the backslash. If I place the same router over here or same middleware in the here, right? And now when I execute my code for the user's router, I get to see the log, but for the local normal router, I don't see the in the first middleware, right? So when we are placing this middleware over here, what's happening is, since this middleware is going to accept all the requests which contains backslash, that's why this request is going to be executed for this middleware is going to be executed for all the routers. But when you placed it inside the user's router, so when you place it inside the user's router, the middleware is executed only for the user's router. See, if now it is not executed because we accessed an index router, but when you access a user's router, then that middleware is executed. So this is called as router level middleware. Now the same thing, the same middleware can be applied at a route level also. So route level also. See, comma. So now this router dot get all users first goes to this function. After this function is executed, then in the next it is going to the other function where we are actually trying to send the response. So see, this is also totally valid. So this is called as route level middleware, and the previous one was called as router level middleware, where all the routes inside this router will be accessed by or used by this middleware. And then the last one was application level middleware, where all the routes inside the application are supplied with that middleware, right? Now using this concept, what we can understand is that what is the use case or where you can use middleware very well. So if you ask me, middlewares are very powerful concept because you can intercept the request and response and take your own decision, right? So see, now let me define a middleware. Okay, function request comma response, right? If the no route matches, right, then we can say res.status code 404, because user tried to access a route which is not present in any of this, then only it will reach the code here, right? Send requested URL not found. Now when I go back to my Postman and try to access a URL which is not defined or which is not defined by anyone, data, right? See, oh, I have to start my server. Okay, I'm run dev. So see, now requested URL not found and the stated code. So see, if any user sends any random URL like this, so instead of throwing an error, we are simply sending him 404 not found and this proper error message saying that URL not found. So middlewares are very powerful, right? Now what we'll do is we will apply the concept of middleware and we'll implement an authentication middleware. Authentication as in, so when a user wants to communicate with our APIs, he has to send a token. In the request.headers. Then we will accept only those requests which have a valid token ID which is being sent in the token in the headers, and if they are valid, then only we will allow the request to go to the user's router, and otherwise we'll send him a 401 error code, right? So let's define that middleware. So how do you define that? Constant or function auth middleware, right? Auth middleware. This middleware is going to get access to request.response comma next, right? Now I will define a key. token is equal to let's generate a hash value, or let's use some unique value. Yeah, so only when user sends this token in the headers, then only that is a valid request, right? So I'm going to my app.js, then I'm going to check constant authorization token is equal to request dot headers dot authorization, right? If authorization token is equal to process dot env dot token, then you call the next function. Otherwise, res dot status 401 and send the user invalid token supplied. So see, now I implemented a auth middleware. What it does is it checks for the authorization token in the headers, request dot headers, and when the authorization header is present, and that header is equal to the same token which I have sent, then it will allow the request to go to the next journey. Otherwise, it is ending the request there itself, saying res.status 401 invalid token supplied. Now, how do I add this function? App.use auth middleware. You can supply multiple middlewares in the form of array also, right? Now, if I try to access any URL, see, it says invalid token supplied. Invalid token supplied. Now we have to send the token authorization, and the token, if I send random token, then it says invalid token supplied. So I have to send only those token which is required to me. So this is kind of protection. So see, now the data is accessible. So that's how you use, or that's how you maintain the auth middlewares. Similarly, you can define what do I say, authorization middleware, like wherein you want to give permissions based on a user. Like if he's an admin, then only give access to admin access. Otherwise, you can go and look for different types of levels, and based on that, you will be able to give access to those routes from the token or anything, right? So this is the one of the biggest advantage which I can see in the Express.js usage, and it will come in very handy to you once you start building your Express.js applications, right?